You're listening to the Storied Coaching Podcast with Aaron J. Jacobs, episode number 94. This week, we're talking about men's mental health, specifically a new way to man up. Forward.
What if you could rewrite your current story? How would you spend your time? What would your career or business look like? What kind of life would you design? Welcome to Storied Coaching, the podcast for high-performing leaders that provides you with tools and insights for building a thriving business that fuels an amazing life on your terms. I'm Aaron J. Jacobs, and as a master coach and the CEO of OMH Creative and Storied Coaching, I've had the privilege and opportunity to learn what it takes to rewrite your story. It's never too late for a rewrite.
Welcome to the podcast this week, heroes. It's Aaron here, and this week I want to talk about what this month is and the things that go along with it. And it's specifically this month, June of the year 2024 of our Lord that we're in right now, is Men's Mental Health Month. And so I want to talk today about some of the things that are affecting men right now. Specifically, we're going to talk about some statistics, some food for thought, especially for those of you that might be having some of these things in your life right now. I want you to know that you're not alone, that I have felt many times the ways that we're going to describe, that I've had issues where I've needed to talk with people, and that if I didn't have a support network, I could have gone off the rails in really bad ways. Not that I haven't gone off the rails before, but it could have been a lot worse. And so I want to talk about the health of having a network, but I also want to talk about a new way to address these things. A new way to man up, if you've ever heard that term, which I'll get into in just a little while. But let's talk about some statistics. Why are we talking about men's mental health? It's because men don't like to talk about it. Unfortunately, that is a stigma or a stereotype that is true. Guys like to hide when it comes to the fact that they might be suffering, that they might be feeling depression or anxiety, because we've been socially conditioned to believe that if we show cracks like that, if we show weakness, that it means that we are weak and that we are not true men, quote unquote. Because a real man that mans up, he just says he's fine. Everything's fine. And it's usually not fine, right? Guys that are listening right now, whenever you hear a guy say that, oh, I'm fine, what does that usually mean? What does it usually mean for you when you say that? I know a lot of times when I've said that, that is my default for, I'm going to say that I'm fine because I'm not supposed to tell you anything else. Or I don't want to show my weakness in front of you. In fact, here are some stats of some of the things that men are experiencing right now. Approximately 1 in 4 men develop alcohol dependency in their lifetime. Maybe not a huge surprise, but a pretty large statistic. I know I was one of those people for a large stretch of my life. I absolutely used alcohol as a way to buffer, which I'll talk about in a little while. But it was my way to numb myself from feeling all of the feelings that I didn't want to feel. Over 6 million men suffer from depression each year. 6 million. But the reason that you don't hear about that very often is because we're men. And so it often goes undiagnosed because we don't seek help. The warning signs, we don't usually say things like, I'm sad or I feel worthless, because again, that would show weakness. That would show cracks in our armor. So usually the warning signs for that are more along the lines of, you see a buddy that is feeling very fatigued. They just want to sleep all the time. They're irritable. They don't want to go out. They have a loss in interest in work that used to light them up, or hobbies that they used to love doing and sharing with other people. This stuff no longer holds any interest for them. They've lost all interest in it. Because that's easier than admitting you're sad, or that you have feelings of worthlessness and that there are things you need to address. So look out for those things in your fellow dudes, all right? When you see them feeling that way, when they're not getting the same joy out of life that they seem to be getting in the past, look for these signs. Because it leads to other things. Male suicide is on the rise since 2000. Like, the numbers just keep going up. Each year, I hope that we're going to see a downtrend, or at least a stable or a leveling off, but it keeps going up since the year of 2000. It's the 7th leading cause in male deaths. And it's 4 times the rate that women experience. 4 times. a lot of times because a man would rather off himself than admit that he has a problem and that he needs help. And that you're feeling so bad that you feel like that might be the only way out, the only way to get relief. And I want you to know that's not the case. Low levels of testosterone, big surprise. I've been talking about this lately as well. Hormone imbalances, chemicals in our brain, chemicals in our body. It's directly correlated to depression, stress, mood swings. Going and having hormone panels done. If you're feeling a certain way and it's not going away, if you're going through a bout of depression and it doesn't seem to be tied to anything that you can tie to mentally, there hasn't been a large life event or something that would make sense of why you're feeling this way, loss of energy, brain fog, those sorts of things, you might want to have your hormones checked. You might want to see what's going on chemically in your body, and if something like testosterone or other hormones might be a way to help you balance them. And we all know, I've talked about this before, but male testosterone levels have been steadily decreasing since the 1970s, about 2% per year. So this is something that more and more men are going to become aware of. So that is another factor to look out for. Men are much more likely to downplay their symptoms as well. Not only do we not want to show our emotions or feel our emotions, but we're super good at hiding it too. Good job, men. That's not something I want us to be good at, but it's something we've gotten very good at, to be able to hide in front of each other. Men are much more likely to downplay their symptoms because it goes against the strong male social norm. We say things like we're fine, and we hide things from even our closest friends, or we detach, or we hide in our own families with our spouses and with our kids. We don't want them to feel bad that we're feeling bad. And so it's just another way that we feel like we're protecting them, but we're not. Because protecting them would be taking care of yourself and getting the help that you need so that you really can be there for them, and that you can be the kind of father or the kind of friend or the kind of brother that you need to be able to support your family, to be a strong man. And part of this, I believe, is directly tied to the fact that men are reporting less meaningful male friendships than ever. Think back to when you were younger. For me, that's the 80s, and riding bikes with friends, and even my friends in high school and in college and after college as well. Like, I had a group of friends that I would hang out with quite a lot. And as we get older, it's normal that falls off a bit. People start families, move away, things like that happen. But the pandemic really did a number on us as well. Now we're self-isolating a lot more, and men are reporting more than ever before that they don't have what they consider a close male friend that they could call and that they could talk to about things that are affecting them. And that could be so important to you being able to share what you're going through and not feeling alone and helping get the help that you need. So if you do have a friend that you can reach out to, or it's fallen off a little bit, that friendship with the friend that you used to hang out with or that you used to tell things to, try to rekindle that. Not just for you, selfishly, but also for that other guy, so that they have someone that they know they can trust and that is trusted and that they can talk to as well, because it's a two-way street. When you ask for help from me as a man, it makes me feel good that I can be there for you. And it also makes me feel connection to you and makes it feel that much deeper, so that when I have a problem, I know that I'm not alone, and that my brain can go to the fact that there was someone that reached out to me, and I can reach out to them as well, that I'm not alone, that I'm not weird, that there are other men experiencing the same things I might be experiencing. So I wanted to start the episode a little bit with some statistics that are not that great to hear, but I have a way that I want to talk about to move forward out of these mindsets. And some of it might be very Aaron, of course that's what we should do, but I think talking about it, about the way that it is now, or the way that it has been, and the way that it might have been taught to you, and then really saying out loud logically what we want to move towards, could be really helpful for a lot of guys. Some of my guys in my audience do the therapy already. They do coaching already. A lot of them are on testosterone therapy, or at least very on top of their health and knowing what's going on in their body. And there's the other side of that as well. You might be listening for the first time, and all of this stuff might be really new to you. And that's okay, no matter where you are on that continuum. There is lots of help here in our podcast, and there's lots of help elsewhere for you to be able to get the information that you need. And I'm hoping that some of the things I'm going to talk about today, as far as the old and the new, as far as man up, what man up used to mean, and what I would like it to start meaning, that if you hear some things in here that are helpful to you, that you will start pursuing those and talking about them with your friends. Reach out to a friend this week. That would be my go-do for you. If I was coming with a call to action, it would be, hey, pick up the phone or send a text, but to someone, a guy especially, that you haven't reached out to in a while. Ask them just how they're feeling. Hey, how are you feeling today? Like, skip the bullshit. Don't talk about golf scores. Don't talk about meaningless stuff. Reach out and ask them how they're feeling. How are they doing? And if you get a fine, I really want you to follow up. That's probably time for a phone call. So, the meaning of man up. We've heard that before, right? Man up. What does it usually mean to you? Most of us are getting some sort of image in our head right now of what man up means. Usually you heard it as a kid, maybe when you fell down the playground the first time and you scraped your knee and you were told to rub some dirt on it and to man up and that boys don't cry. And that's where you started to realize that that wasn't okay for you to show that emotion. That starts to have ripple effects throughout your life. That you're supposed to not show emotion, that emotions equals weak, except for certain curated ones that are okay. One thing I would like to talk about here is how the term stoic, to be stoic, is often referred to when people are talking about a very manly man. He's very stoic. But I believe that definition of that word has been stolen and has been twisted in a way that doesn't help us. Because when it's used like that, oh, that guy's really stoic, it's supposed to mean that, like, he doesn't show emotion, that he can get beat up real bad and he doesn't really show it, whether that's emotionally or physically. Like, he can just take it, whether that's stress or anxiety or whatever it is. He's very stoic. Yeah. As if that was a really good thing, that you could just have the weight of the world on you and just pretend it's not there. Where Stoicism in and of itself is something completely different. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Well, we're going to talk about the old meaning of man up first. So that stoic thing, okay? That you can take a lot on you and that, like, you're just going to pretend, again, you're going to be an actor and you're going to pretend that it doesn't affect you, that you're fine. Because we're taught that when we talk about emotions in general as men, emotions are weak. Like, you're not supposed to show emotions in front of other men. And this is sometimes done in a very lighthearted, teasing way. We do this to each other, guys, and I would like to call us out on it. Sometimes we will be in a group of guys, and I know that I've probably done it too, and someone says something that's a little more emotional, or we're talking about feelings or something like that, and then you tease them a little bit and go, whoa, where did that come from? Or, whoa, okay, we're getting all, like, we get a little uncomfortable because we've been socially conditioned that we're not supposed to talk about feelings. And then we are reinforcing that with that person. So that person's probably not going to say anything again. And it's just that kind of male relationship that I just feel like we shouldn't tolerate anymore. We should stop doing it. When guys talk about how the way they're feeling or an emotion or something that affected them, we should lean into it. Ask them to tell you more. Maybe that person's going to be there for you the next time you need to talk about something like that. Although it is okay for us to feel some emotions, right, guys? If you're really angry, that's okay. It's okay to be super angry. It's also okay. I would say it's okay to be happy. It's okay to be like, hey, let's say it's doing really great. Super smiley guy, like super doing really well. You're allowed to be super happy or angry. Or, like we talked about before, if you're not feeling that way and you're trying to hide something, it's okay to be fine. Most guys won't call you out on that. It's okay to be fine, which usually means just don't ask any deeper. Don't peel back these layers because I'm barely holding my shit together. Because asking for help, that's the next thing I want to talk about. Asking for help equals weak. Asking for help, going to a coach, going to a therapist, going to a psychologist, talking to your doctor about getting on an SSRI or about some medications because you can't seem to pull up out of this depression. You've been having anxiety attacks, but you don't want to tell anybody. So you're just suffering in silence. Asking for help equals weak. You're having trouble in the bedroom. And you're having trouble with erectile dysfunction issues, but you don't want to talk about it with anyone because that's not manly. Some guys won't even talk to their doctor about it because they're that embarrassed. And it's affecting their lives to have a healthy sex life with their wife or just in general, whether you're married or not. These are things that are important to a man's health, to his physical health and his mental well-being. And asking for help is okay. Most guys have gone through something like that in their lives. And if you haven't yet, guess what? You're going to at some point. But having trouble feeling stuff you don't want to feel, we have a solution for that as men. You feeling things you don't want to feel? You feeling sad? You feeling depressed? You feeling anxious? You don't want to think about something? Are you worried about something? We've got a solution for that. It's called buffering. Buffering is doing any sort of behavior that is probably to your detriment, that is keeping you numb and keeps you from feeling. It's like putting a nice gauzy layer around you and shutting everything off so that everything's muffled, like the best noise canceling headphones you've ever had. So you can't listen to your emotions that are trying to talk to you. And this usually for guys comes in the form of alcohol, drugs, and food. Those are our big three. For me, it was definitely just another bourbon will probably make me feel better. I'm really stressed out about that thing at work. I'm just going to have one more bourbon. That'll help a lot. It didn't. Newsflash. Didn't help at all. Made things worse. Made me fat. Made me anxious. Made me hungover the next day. Made me slow. Made me more anxious because it got into a cycle where I'll just have one more tonight. And now I feel bad tomorrow morning. And I also am having more and more anxiety. And it's all connected. It's all in a cycle. But what do you do to feel better if you're feeling that way? Oh, just have another drink. That's the answer. It's the answer and it's the problem. Or drugs. For some guys, it's drugs. For some guys, it's marijuana. It's fine. It's okay. Probably not if you're having it on a daily basis. Probably not. There's outlier events for that. Like if you're a cancer patient and you need to eat, like maybe you need to be smoking marijuana on a daily basis. That might be something. There's always a caveat, right? But probably not for most of us. And the big one that you're like, hey, Aaron, I don't overdrink at all. In fact, Aaron, I hardly ever drink. I'm a high performer. Don't do drugs either. I experiment a little bit in college, but I don't do drugs, especially not on a regular basis. But I got a gut because I really don't have time to go to the gym, and I just reward myself with food, with sweets and chocolate and lots of food. So food can be a buffer as well. These are just things that we use in order, again, not to feel the feelings we don't want to feel. If you're feeling sad, if you're feeling anxious, you're feeling like you don't know what to do, you're worried about stuff, we buffer. And we all do this. I do it still. It's not like I don't do it anymore. I cut alcohol completely out of my life and I don't have drugs in my life, but absolutely. Sometimes do I have a hard day and I'm like, man, I want a piece of chocolate cake, as if that's a reward that's going to help me solve a problem if I'm feeling stressed out or something like that. But it doesn't. It just distracts you temporarily from what you need to address. And we're all going to buffer at some point. It's just being aware of it and not using it constantly in order to not feel your feelings. That's when it becomes a problem. So now that we've talked a little bit about this stuff, about the man up meaning of like stoic, which is the wrong definition, I'll get to in a moment, that emotions equal weak outside of anger and feeling fine and maybe happy, that asking for help equals you being weak, and that if you're having trouble with anything, it's okay, just stuff it down and buffer with alcohol or drugs or food. That's like the recipe for the guidebook for how to be a man if someone's telling you should man up. And that's the old way. So I've got a suggestion for how we can do a new definition of what man up means. And it means being even more of a man, because you're going to deal with more of your shit instead of ignoring it. Some of these are self-evident because of what I already told you is probably not helping us. But I'm going to lay these out for you. So I would start with true stoicism. What is true stoicism? Some of you that have listened to this, you've probably read some Ryan Holiday. A lot of crossover between my communities and Ryan Holiday and other guys that talk about kind of modern Stoicism, looking back at Marcus Aurelius, looking back at meditations, looking back at things that help you to be able to control the things in your life you can control and let go of the things that you can't. That's what true Stoicism is. It's the lesson that the only thing you can control in your life is how you react to circumstances and events. Because circumstances and events, there will be circumstances and events that are outside of your control. You can't control them. The only thing you can control is how you react to those events. That's true Stoicism. And see how that's different than being stoic? The twisted definition of it. Truly being stoic means that you stick to the tenets of Stoicism. And there's 4 major tenets of Stoicism. They're justice, courage, wisdom, and temperance. Having a strong sense of justice, stepping in when you think something is unjust, leading with justice in mind and fairness, the courage to be able to do things like that, to be able to speak up when you see something being unfair, wisdom to have collected enough experiences in your life that you can take your time, and sometimes not reacting is the right way to react. Sometimes not moving forward with something is wisdom instead of running headlong into something without considering it and getting angry in the moment. And temperance, I would tie to, at least in my life, the things that I've tied temperance to are overeating, over drinking, too high and too low, going to extremes. Temperance, trying to maintain an even keel as much as possible. Not too high, not too low. Those are the tenets of Stoicism. Controlling things, controlling life in the reactions, not to the circumstances and the events themselves, because you can't control those a lot of times. What's happening in politics, what's happening in other parts of the world, what's happening even to you directly sometimes, whether it's a job loss out of nowhere. Like, you can't fix that right now, but you can control how you react to it in the circumstance that hopefully minimizes the damage and helps you get to something even better, faster. So you can see how this definition of Stoicism is so much different than the twisted definition of being stoic, which is just like allowing things to pile on top of you and not complain. Yeah, I'm really depressed. I'm having anxiety attacks every other day. That's all right. I'm drinking a 5th of bourbon every 2 days, but I'm fine. I'm stoic. Fine. It's very different between those two. So I would say let's start reaching. When we talk about manning up, let's talk about true Stoicism. Help each other to know that we can only control how we react to certain circumstances and events, that we can't control the events themselves a lot of times, and trying to only makes us feel more pain and worry. Allowing your emotions doesn't make you weak. Allowing your emotions makes you strong. You know why? Think about it. If you have to feel your emotions, especially the ones that are associated with being negative emotions, and I don't really think that any emotions are bad or good, we just have to feel them, and we've put them in baskets, kind of overall. Happy is a good emotion. Sadness is a bad emotion. Not really. Sadness has its place. Sadness helps us grieve. It helps us deal with a death. It helps us deal with loss. Sometimes that comes out in tears, and sometimes it comes out in other ways. But stuffing it down and buffering against your emotions just delays the inevitable, because it's going to come out somehow. And it usually comes out in a much more painful and self-destructive behavior. So you can gain 30 pounds because you ate your feelings, or you can deal with the fact that you're sad and you're worried that you might be next because your friend died of a heart attack, and now you're running away from that pain and also dealing with your own mortality. Instead of feeling your feelings and feeling sad for your friend and for the loss and getting help and going to the doctor, don't avoid it by buffering. Allowing our emotions makes us strong, not weak. It takes bravery to allow yourself to feel sadness, to feel true loss. Because think about it, most guys don't. And why? Because it's easier to buffer. It's easier to drink. It's easier to pretend you're not feeling the emotions for a while. until you push so much of that shit down in the bag that it starts to leak out in other places. With you yelling at your kids, with you getting upset with your spouse, with you having a blow up at work, with you starting to have anxiety attacks out of nowhere. You don't know where this is coming from. Yeah, you do. It's coming from the fact that you're not dealing with your emotions. You're not allowing yourself to feel. And again, I'm not talking to the universal, all you out there. I'm talking to myself right now. I've absolutely had anxiety attacks in my life. I've had clinical depression. I've worried about things and stayed up all night. I've tried to buffer with alcohol. If it worked, I would tell you it did. It just doesn't work, guys. It doesn't work. It works for a little while, and then it gets worse, and then you have to deal with the fact that you're over drinking, and now you have to deal with that on top of the fact that you're not dealing with your fucking emotions. See? It just compounds. It just makes it worse. So the new definition of man up is a man that feels his feelings. Man, that guy's so stoic. We're not going to feel proud of that guy anymore. We're going to feel proud of the guy that guy feels his emotions. That guy feels his shit. He doesn't stuff it down. He's authentic. He takes the time to mourn when he's sad, to feel loss, to feel disappointment. And then you're able to get through it that much faster. When you feel it, it accelerates the healing process. You're able to get out of it faster and get back to a state that you'll enjoy more. Because running from your emotions by buffering, it's hiding. It's just numbing yourself. It only makes the process take longer. And now, like I said, now you're fat and drunk too. Now you're not just sad. Now you have to get to the gym more and go for more walks, and you have bad health. Awesome. Fantastic. Which will probably make you even more sad. It would make me sad. The next thing that I would say that it truly means the definition of manning up is asking for help. Instead of not asking for help, a real man doesn't ask for help. He handles all of his shit on his own. No, he doesn't. A real man, a real leader, the strongest leaders I've ever known are the ones that know universally they have this trait of knowing their own limitations and when to look for outside help to accelerate their own learning and evolution and their healing process. They go and get therapy. They hire a coach to accelerate the process, whether it's building a business and going into a new line of business where you need to find an expert and getting a coach who's has walked that path before and can help you do it. Or whether that's a therapist that can help you deal with your depression and then refer you to a doctor that can get you on an SSRI. Or if that's not your thing, maybe you want to check out your hormones, see where your testosterone levels are at, see if that helps you be able to get the mental fog gone and get your energy back and your libido and start losing weight and all those things. There's lots of different ways to go about this if you ask for help. It can start with just a friend asking a question. For the testosterone example, I had a very good friend, Steve, that just asked me out of the blue. He just asked me while we were working out. He said, "Hey, have you ever had your hormone levels checked?" Because he noticed that I was dealing with some stuff. And he cared about me enough to ask a small question that ended up leading me down a path that completely changed my life for the better. So ask your friends when they need help. If you see that they're struggling or that they might be, if you've been down a path that might help them, don't stay quiet. That's not manly. Tell them that you've been down a certain path, that you might have been struggling with some of the same things, and show them that there's hope to be able to get out of that pit because you've been down in that pit before too. So look for outside help. If you're listening to me right now and you think that it's not manly to get a therapist or to tell people you're in therapy, I feel like it's a power move now. Yeah, I'm in therapy. I'm in all the therapy. I'm in therapy for myself. I'm in therapy whenever my wife and I need to work on stuff. We're in therapy. We get coaching. My kids are in therapy when they need therapy. Like, having someone to talk to help you work through the stuff in your brain that might be making you feel sad and weights that you're carrying around that you can maybe set down and finally let go of. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine what that would feel like? I know there are people listening right now that have been carrying around a lot of weight. And I want you to know that there is the opportunity, there is the chance for you to set that weight down and not carry it anymore. Whether it's sadness, or whether it's depression, or whether it's things that you feel like happened to you early on in your life that are trauma, There are ways for you to be able to learn how to set it down and walk away from it and live a lighter life. But you have to ask for help. You have to be willing to ask for help. It will accelerate the healing process for you. It will help you get out of the hole faster. So that's it, guys. That's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about the fact that I know there are a lot of guys that suffer, that are going to continue to suffer, but I don't want anyone that's listening to me right now to be one of those people. I want you to take an oath with me that you're going to reach out to a friend this week and just ask them how they're feeling. It's a simple text. Hey, how are you feeling? How are you doing right now? Really ask them. Let them talk. Maybe follow it up with a phone call. It could make a huge difference to what they're dealing with right now if they don't have anyone to talk with. Be brave enough to let them know that you might have been dealing with some of the same things that they're dealing with. That you might have been dealing with trouble in the bedroom at one point, that you might have experienced ED. Things that they don't want to talk about. That they're sad that something happened to them in their life, that they lost a job and they know they shouldn't be this wrapped up about it, but it really hurts. Let them know about when that happened to you. Let them know if you've had an anxiety attack, if you've had trouble with over drinking. Keeping this stuff to ourselves is what makes us feel so fucking isolated and not ask for help, because we don't see people around us modeling that they ran into the same problems. We don't talk about it as if it's some badge of honor that we're pretending that we're perfect, because none of us are. So please, reach out to each other for help. And that's what I want to talk about today. So for Men's Mental Health Month, that's my message for you, that we're going to have a new way to man up. That manning up means feeling your feelings. It means true stoicism, which is affecting the things that you can, which is really just your reactions to things, letting go of the things that you can't, stop carrying them around, and don't buffer. Go ahead, ask for help. Don't look for it with alcohol, food, and with drugs. It feels really great. It feels real good in the moment. It feels amazing. But it's short-term dopamine hit that isn't going to give you lasting results, and it's just going to prolong the inevitable pain that you're feeling right now. All right, my friends, that's all for now. Have a fantastic week. I wish you all the best, all the men in my audience. You've got this. I want you to know that you're loved and that we're really glad that you're here. And we want you to continue to be here. I'll talk to you next week. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Storied Coaching with Aaron J. Jacobs. If you want more information or resources from the podcast, visit us at storiedcoaching.com.